Welcome back to Interpreting Turnitin Originality Reports tutorial. In this part of the tutorial, we will cover some examples of word-for-word plagiarism that is found in the Turnitin Originality Reports. So let's get started. Before we get started looking at some examples, let's go over the definition of word-for-word plagiarism. We have defined word-for-word plagiarism in the first introductory video, and we have said that word-for-word plagiarism is when a sequence of 7 or more words is taken from another source, word for word, without attempting to paraphrase, and without any identification given that this is not your own work. Now, you identify that this is somebody else's work when it's word for word by using quotation marks, and additionally you need to provide in-text citations, which is used to give credit to the author or authors. Lastly, you also need to provide a bibliographic reference, which is placed on your reference page, the last page of your paper. Now, we are not really going through the mechanics, and I'm reminding you that you need to look at Purdue online writing lab resources in how to do that and how to format in-text citations and bibliographic references. But you still need to understand that those are important, and if they are not included in your paper, they will be considered as plagiarism. So now that we went through the definition, let's look at some specific examples of word-for-word plagiarism. Now let's start looking at some specific examples. In this particular example, we see the area that's highlighted in red and marked with number 13. This particular area has 7 words, which, remember, that's our magic number. And if you have 7 words, 7 or more words in a sequence, those should be really under quotation marks, or they should be paraphrased. Additionally, they should be followed by an in-text citation, and a proper reference should be provided on the reference page. Now, if you look at this area, we do not see quotation marks. We do not see in-text citations. Therefore, this would be considered word-for-word plagiarism. Now, let's talk about how you would correct this area. You have 2 choices. The first choice would be to add quotation marks and follow this statement by properly formatted in-text citation. Additionally, you would add the source to your reference page. Your second choice, which is a better choice, is that you would paraphrase this part of the sentence, and you would follow the paraphrase by properly formatted in-text citation, as well as add the source to your reference page. So you could paraphrase this part of the sentence as, for example, hormone replacement is required for patients who have their thyroid glands removed, as it is a necessary treatment for metabolism regulation. Something along these lines. Now you see how I have completely changed I haven't changed the meaning, but I have changed the wording of this sentence. Once you fix this area, you can submit it again to Turnitin, obtain another report, as you will be given unlimited number of submissions, and you can see if it highlighted again. Now don't forget to cite it, otherwise you're committing paraphrasing plagiarism. So again, while either one of these options is acceptable, keep in mind that you should keep your quotes to a minimum, as most of your paper should be in your own words. If you quote too much, if your paper has just a bunch of quotes and then you just copied and pasted and you didn't really put much effort into writing your paper, even if you cited it correctly. So the better option is always to paraphrase, because once you put it in your own words, you are really getting more familiar with the material that you're writing about, which really is the purpose of these research assignments and writing assignments in general. So you should only quote when it is difficult to paraphrase, and then it's acceptable. For example, when you need to present a well-stated sentence, or several of them, whose meaning would be lost or changed if you paraphrase it. Now let's look at some more examples. So let's look at another example. This example here has quite a few highlighted areas, and in fact this may be very similar to your first drafts that you may retrieve from your submission. When you see this, don't panic. You just need to go through every single area and make sure that you address them and correct them if needed. So let's start at the top. Our first area here, marked by number 13, has more than 7 words highlighted in a sequence, and it's not followed by a citation. So is this plagiarism? Well, based on the definition that we just explained earlier, this is an example of word-for-word plagiarism. To fix this area, you can either quote it and cite it or paraphrase it and cite it, just like the previous examples that we just have looked at. The next area also has more than 7 words. It's labeled here with number 9. Those words are all in a sequence, not quoted, not followed by an in-text citation. Therefore, this is word-for-word plagiarism as well. The green area, labeled with number 5, is indeed in quotes and is followed by the in-text citation. Therefore, this is an example of non-plagiarism. This is also the case for the areas marked with numbers 10, 12, and 1. All of these areas are indeed quoted, and there is a citation at the end. So this is not plagiarism as long as there's a reference on the reference page listed. Again, we're not looking at this, but keep in mind that every in-text citation has to have a matching reference. So in our next example here, we have 2 main highlighted areas, both from the same source. And if we look at the first part right here, we see that this sentence is actually marked with quotation marks. So it's under quotes. Our first instinct may be to say, well, it's under quotes, it's okay. But if we look here, we do not see an in-text citation giving credit to the author. So while this is not plagiarized per se, it is lacking a citation, which is also a major error that cannot be ignored. Therefore, to correct this part, you would need to provide an in-text citation and then additionally provide the source in the reference page. The second part here has actually more than 7 words, and they're in a sequence, they're not under quotation marks, and they're not followed by an in-text citation. So this is word-for-word plagiarism. Now, to fix this, you would paraphrase it and cite it, or you could add quotation marks and citations, as well as make sure that the proper reference is included on the reference page. So both of these areas need attention and need to be fixed, as we've just discussed, as they are plagiarized. And here we come to our last example of word-for-word plagiarism. In this section right here, that is marked by number 1, we have more than 7 words included. We do not have a citation, and we do not have quotation marks. Therefore, this appears to be plagiarized. More specifically, this is word-for-word plagiarism. To fix this area, remember we have 2 options. We can use quotation marks and add a citation, or we could paraphrase it and then cite it. Again, making sure that we provide a reference at the reference page is applicable to both choices. Now remember that our preferred choice is to paraphrase instead of quote, as we want to keep our quotations to a minimum in our paper. This brings us to the end of this instructional video, and I invite you to open up the paraphrasing plagiarism video next. in which we will review examples of paraphrasing plagiarism.